Hey, welcome to the first video on understanding the principles of strength training. Let's go into the introduction of strength training. Okay, so today's objective would be to learn what and what is not training, and we'll also be learning about four terminologies. The first terminology being physical activity, second being workout, then exercise, then training. Let's see what physical activity is. According to American Heart Association, anything which makes you move your body and burn calorie is called as a physical activity. But the problem is you not being lazy is termed as physical activity. This is not an optimal definition of a physical activity. For athletes, this definition meaning not sitting or lying down, which isn't a good definition. So, according to Kilgore and Ripeto in 2006, from their paper, um, physical activity can be defined as possession of adequate level of strength, endurance, and mobility to provide for successful participation in occupational effort, recreational pursuits, familial obligation, and that is consistent with a functional phenotypic expression of the human genotype. Now, how is this definition better than the previous definition which is given by American Heart Association? Firstly, this definition is more specific. This is achievable through life and related activities. It takes intra and intergenerational evolution into consideration. Now, we as human beings evolve continuously, we change continuously. So we change in our life and through the generation we change from one generation to other. So what does AHA mean when it says about a physical activity? It means that any person who is trying to avoid, any person who avoids cardiac related disease is healthy. So all the physical activity defined by AHA is towards a person not having cardiac disease. But what we are learning now is anything which is beyond cardiac health purposes. It is much more than cardiac health. Let's go to the second definition of what is a workout. An event that produces physical stress is defined to be a workout. We have one more terminology which we don't know, which is stress, which we'll learn in some time. Exercise and training both uses workouts primarily. What is an exercise? Any physical activity done today and has its effect right now. Now again, exercise is using a terminology which we have already studied previously now, which is what physical activity is. We already know what physical activity is. Any physical activity done today has its effect right away now. Some examples include pump in the muscle. Me doing bicep curl, 3 sets, 15 repetitions each, will lead to pump in the muscle. Now this pump is an effect which is done because of a physical activity called as bicep curl. Similarly, sweating and increased heart rate as well. Me running for 500 meters or 2 kilometers or 3 kilometers will lead to increased heart rate and sweating in the muscle. Now, exercise does not consider performance as a thing. And because this is not a thing, performance is not considered, this is the right term generally used for non-athlete physical activities. So when we know that physical is not performance is not considered in exercise, where is performance considered is the next question. Training is the answer. Any physical activity that considers long-term performance and thereby is ideally optimized towards the goal of reaching towards a goal at the end of a period is called as training. Now, training may or may not have instant gratification at the end of a session. What does this mean? While exercise has pump in the muscle, sweating, increased heart rate, which may make you feel good, training may or may not have this particular type of result. Now we have learned a lot of different definitions. We have learned what physical activity is, what workout is, what exercise is, and what training is. Now we should also learn what how are these things related with each other. Now when we see this diagram, we can see that training is the superset of everything. Or to be more precise, physical activity is a subset of workout, which is a subset of exercise, and it is a subset of training. This figure is drawn as an interpretation of the text read from the book. Now let's see what differentiates athletes from non-athletes. A non-athlete may have the goal to lose some weight, lose some belly fat, get in shape, build some muscle, improve heart health, etc. If anyone would observe this as a goal, this goal is not defined well, is not very specific. Lose some weight. How much weight? What is the current weight? What is the target weight? What is the time period we are looking into? And when we are talking about weight, is it losing muscle? Is it losing fat? What is it? Lose some belly. Again, okay, lose some belly fat. Again, we know that again, I think we'll study in the future that spot reduction is a myth. You can't lose just belly fat. You have to lose fat, and the distribution of fat is dependent on person to person, human to human. So lose some belly fat is a goal, but it's not specific goal. It's not scientific at all. Get in shape. Now, getting in shape for me versus for you may be something different. For me, getting in shape may be to probably shred a lot. For you, getting in shape maybe where you get some amount of definition. Again, some amount of definition is not correct. It's not the ideal definition of how it should be. Improve heart health. Again, from where? What is the starting point? What is the ending point? All these goals which are defined by a non-athlete is not specific. And also, non-athlete exercise programming lacks balance and systematic loading component. What do we mean by this? If we go to a normal gym will have a lot of barbell, and the trainer would generally suggest people to go for barbell exercises. Why? Because it's easier. It can be done using both the limbs together, and there is very little minimal risk of a person having injury, and also it's easier to train barbell exercises for a beginner. Or a gym may suggest a random programming method like P90X or CrossFit. And again, as I mentioned, there is limited focus on free weight exercises. Reason being, it may cause injury, and it is time consuming for teaching it to beginners. Now, what we need to consider is gyms run as a business, and it's not wrong. When you run a business, scalability is a matter which is considered, and personalization of training plans runs opposite to scalability. So the fitness industry operates on one size fits all model. So basically they want to give some certain plans to their clients and hope that they work on this. So it works on one size fits all model, which is efficient for scaling as a business, which is not wrong at all for a person who just wants to get healthy. And they also have overrated cardio machinery, and they often refer it to as fat burners, because they have two sections mainly. One is the weight section, one is the cardio section. They want equal distribution of clients in both, and they just don't want people to be in the weight section for longer time than the cardio section. So they just give a 45-55 ratio of you use cardio for 45% of the time, and 55% of the time you can use the weight section, which which is not ideal way of training. Or again, ideal way of training comes from definition of what training is. So if you don't have any ideal plan or ideal training methodology, this will totally work for you. It's not wrong at all. So let's go into strength training now, and this is one of the topics that we'll stop for today. So what is strength training? Creating a long-term plan of exercises towards a specific goal is called as training, towards increasing the strength as a metric, thereby improving an athlete's performance, can be defined as strength training. A training program that increases athletes' force against external resistance, and this requires two major points. One is analysis of current strength of the athlete, and this can be done by teach and assess method. Now let's understand what is teach and assess method. So particularly when the coach or the trainer teaches a particular exercise properly, the right form, and then will clear the stage for the athlete to perform. Now, the objective is to assess what weight and how much repetition can be achieved by the athlete in the right form. Assessment ends either when the athlete reaches muscular failure or when the exercise is done in an incorrect manner. So this is teach and assess method. Building a program with increasing strength as a purpose is the second point that we'll focus on. Then there are certain scenarios as well that we should consider while strength training. So we should consider the concept of stress, recovery, and adaptation. Again, we will study these in detail in future videos. But as of now, what is stress? Any activity or event that causes disturbance in the physiology of an organism, or it disturbs the homeostasis, which is the internal balance of an organism. Example, harder workout session, increased breath rate and sweating. This is stress. What is recovery? Organism's way of coping up with the stress to attain back homeostasis is called as recovery. And what is adaptation? Adjustment towards stress, generally a get ready step to future stress that may be similar to the earlier one. So the body tries to adapt with the stress such that the stress, if it is repeated in the future, the body is already adapt to it. So yeah, in our case, stress can be induced by barbell workout, and in long term, our body increases strength as an adaptive measure. The same thing we can understand in figure 1, which is understanding stress, recovery, and adaptation with a flow diagram. Here we can see that stress, after some amount of stress, there should be some recovery, and after recovery, again, if the stress is induced and if this is repeated for many cycles, then our body gets adapted. At this point of time, the stress will not work at all. And what should we do to do some changes such that the stress and recovery cycle can be increased or can be changed is basically change the type of stress or change the quantity of stress. Again, the quantitative versus qualitative measure of stress will come back in the next video as well. And figure 2 here describes strength compared to adaptation rate in amateur versus pro. So if we just see this particular figure, the rate of adaptation is highest in people who have not worked out, and the strength in them is minimal, right? And when we see this to a pro who has been lifting for, let's say, 5-6 years, the rate of adaptation becomes very less and the strength is almost towards the peak. Now, the concept of strength training works on the concept of diminishing returns. Let's take an example that we have 100 acres of land and we have one farmer who is doing the job. Let's assume he is able to get 500 kg of the crop at the end of the season. Now, instead of one farmer, the next year he employs two farmers in total. Mathematically speaking, it should have been 500 into 2, which should be 1000 kgs. But the thing is, this again is an example of concept of diminishing returns. If you increase the input, the output will not increase as much. Let's assume they get 900 kg when they employ two farmers, and the next year he employs three farmers. Ideally speaking, mathematically, if it is linear, it should have been 1500 kilos, but it would be something like 950 kg. It would not increase by a factor, by a very good factor. So this is the concept of diminishing returns, and this is true in many of the biological aspect as well. And finally, I would like to end my presentation or end the video with this. The design of training is a concept which requires three fundamental things: planning, knowledge, experience. And these are put in AND gates. Me being an engineer, it's very important that this concept is known to other people as well. So if we assume the truth table or truth table for the design of training, when we have the input, we have three input, which is planning, knowledge, and experience. We have one output, which is training success. The training success is true only when the planning, knowledge, and experience are set to true. Even if we have one of them being false, basically, if we don't have planning but we have knowledge and experience, if we have planning but we don't have knowledge, we have experience. We have planning and knowledge but we don't have experience. At any of these cases, any of these scenarios, will training success be false. You cannot have a successful training. And this is again one of the circuit arrangements of design of training. Yeah, so we are towards the end of this video, and this is the reference which I went through for explaining these concepts. Again, the concepts discussed are informed from Repeto, Mark et al. Practical Programming for Strength Training, third edition, interpreted and summarized in my own words. I'll see you in the next video, and in the next video we'll discuss more about strength training, but we'll look into the theoretical approach and their problems. See you in the next one. I hope you like the video. If you like the video, like it, share it, subscribe it. If you can even hype the video. I don't know if the feature is available, but see you in the next one. Thank you.